In order to make this available to people, obviously there's lots of steps for that, but will people have to pay like a subscription fee, or will some of this material eventually be free?
Yeah, some of this material will eventually be free. I mean, someone's going to go in and hack the site and put it out there. You're talking PDFs. Yeah, you can't control. And you know what? Things like that, for anybody, we're not. It's a nonprofit. SSI is a nonprofit, which doesn't mean we don't have to eat and things like that. Okay. But if it gets out there for free outside of our control, at least people will be reading it. And it won't be this thing of you got to pay $300 for something or simply not buy it, but no, there might be something there. So in the grand scheme of things, however it gets out there, people will read it. But we hope that people will become members of SSI, because then the small amount of money, and it's not a huge, I pay 20 times more for my yearly subscription to Space News, for a small fee, becoming a member or an associate, and if you're actually a researcher or you're working on a project, you get senior associate and things like that. Those amounts of money, go to keep making it free. All right. So things, yes, will be free. I'm sure we'll be taking things and going, hey, this is so good, we'll just give this away. But there also has to be something for members. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So that's the fun, and that's the great thing about the web, is that we can adjust it as we see the need.
Can you give us any specific examples of some really, really hard to find stuff that you've come across that people need to be aware of?
Excuse me. The SSI proceedings themselves are phenomenal. Okay, the thing about them is you get this book, and they're big books. Have you ever seen these things? I would have one, but they break your back. I mean, they're 500 pages each of high quality. They put some quality into these printings, right? And it's all the pre-PowerPoint, all the presentation stuff, and all the white papers and everything from their old 3-day conferences. And they did them they used to do them every 2 years. So they really let the things build up, right? And they covered everything. It wasn't like single track. And I don't know, I never went to any one of them, but I think it was single track all the way through. But they packed it all the way in, and they did have it separated. So you'd get legal and economic. Right? You get, so things on the treaties and so forth. I mean, things to still ask about, and they're already, I read them and they're all already there. Electronics, nanotechnology, which evolved later because that came also out of the Princeton group. The thing about reading each book is you get like 5 white papers on this, and if you're really into microelectronics, $200 for 5 white papers, they'd be awesome, but you go through the 20 years worth of proceedings, so. These are great things, so making them a lot less expensive and making it available as a researcher, it allows you to get at the things that you need without the 400 other pages of things that you're really not exactly working on at that moment. Does that make any sense? Mm-hmm. There's a lot of NASA stuff that's on nasa.gov. A lot of times what I find is I go to nasa.gov, sorry, but I'm going to be honest, I'm a citizen, I can do this. You go, why should I buy that thing for $50 from 1973 from, an Amazon merchant, when I can just get it on NASA? Then you go on NASA.gov, and it's like, I don't know, who did this? They take the thing, they put it on a Xerox machine, and half the pages are tilted this way, it's all dirty, a page is missing, and they don't care. They're doing it by quantity, not quality. They're doing the best they can, but we're not. And when I say we, I mean I'm sitting there page by page, okay? Making sure these things are readable and quality. So even, and there are a number of things that SSI has in its library and its archives that NASA just doesn't have anymore, at least not any way you can find them. But SSI funded the studies. SSI, the more I find, it just opens up going, but they did that? Where'd they get the money? Well, they did that. They did these things. They funded major studies through NASA. And so, of course, we have the documentation there, and we make those things available. And I don't know, I can't say, oh, it's all about the giant O'Neill cylinders, because it's not. It's about everything it takes to get there. Because they really did get into detail. You go, yeah, okay, it's a science fiction thing. We all want to live on those for 5 minutes. As I'm falling asleep, I pretend, what would it be like to look up and see a lake above my head? But these things are really and these are geek engineers going, all right, how do we move the air in this giant torus, or even a small thing the size of a bigelow? How do we move the air so when you fall asleep you don't suffocate? Little, make the big. And SSI really is meticulous over the years, and it covers all the gamut. Am I getting too excited? It's fascinating. And I didn't even know who these people were. So if there's anyone else who doesn't know who SSI is, trust me. Check out SSI.org and look at as we release these things. And if you're a researcher or a scientist or an engineer and you have a project, of course, pitch it to us. And I mean, let's see what can be done.